This is the story of Down, Down the Deep River. You can read along with me in your book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear the synthesizer play like this. Let's begin now. In a small town in New Hampshire, a boy raced through his house and up the stairs into his bedroom. He was looking for something.
Where is it? I can't find it anywhere.
The boy was looking for a cassette tape. His favorite song was playing on the radio, but he couldn't find anything to record it on. Finally,
here it is. I found it.
The boy found the exact tape he was looking for, put it in his tape deck, and pressed record.
What a relief.
Having recorded the song, the boy left his house and walked down the street. He took a path that led into the woods. The path went higher and higher. The boy was climbing a mountain. When he got to the top, he could see his whole town stretched out below. The next morning, the boy woke up to go to school. Before he left, he had to feed his dog and make sure she didn't escape from the house.
Come here, girl. Are you hungry?
At school, the boy sat in the back of the classroom alone. The boy didn't have that many friends at his school, and the other children liked to make fun of him.
Dork, loser, spaz.
Today, the boy was working on a drawing, lost in his own imaginary world. And then, suddenly, his pencil broke. When the boy got up to walk to the pencil sharpener, he noticed a new student in his class. The student was also working on a drawing of a car that was turning into a robot.
Hi, do you like to draw too?
One day later in school, the boy sat at the back of his classroom. It was just another day of being bored in class. Then, to his surprise, he saw the new student walking to the back of the room towards him. The new student dropped something on his desk.
It's a strip of paper with these random letters written on it, and there's this weird pen with it. I wonder what it could mean.
Just then, the boy had an idea. He wrapped the strip of paper around the pen, and, like magic, a coded message appeared.
It says, "Come over to my house after school."
After school, the boy took the new student's bus route home. They came to a strange house. It looked old and run down.
Well, this is where I live.
In the living room, the two boys drew pictures with the TV on. The boy started drawing a monster with blue skin.
Hey, that's pretty cool. Let's give him some big claws.
Okay, and a red robe to wear.
After drawing for a while, the two friends looked down at their piece of paper to see that, together, they had created a strange and scary-looking being.
Whoa.
Suddenly, there was a sound of tires in the driveway.
It's my dad. Run, downstairs.
They both ran to the downstairs bedroom to hide, but the boy was confused.
What's going on? Why are we hiding down here?
Ring, ring went the school bell. It was the last day of school, the first day of summer. On his way out of the classroom, the boy was shoved by a bully in his class. But he didn't care. He was free. Leaving school, the boy and his new friend decided to head home a different way, cutting through the woods.
Come on, let's go exploring.
The two boys walked through the forest. They walked through a graveyard and across a stream. They came to a fork in the road.
I think we should take the path on the right.
Suddenly, the boys found themselves standing in front of a strange structure. It was a giant house in the shape of the letter A.
Let's go inside.
The A-frame house was empty and quiet. It looked like no one had lived there for a long time. In some places, the roof had fallen in, and in other places, birds had built nests in the walls.
This is so cool.
The boy took some magic markers out of his backpack.
Let's draw something on the wall to show we were here.
On the wall of the A-frame house, he drew the strange-looking being he had invented with his friend.
We'll make this our special place.
The long summer days passed slowly. One afternoon, the boy sat in the basement of his friend's house, and he could hear his friend's dad watching TV upstairs. The boy didn't understand why his friend was so scared of his dad, and he decided to take a look for himself.
I'm going upstairs.
The boy left his friend's bedroom and tiptoed into the basement hallway and then up the staircase. At the top of the stairs, he peered around the corner. Sitting on the sofa in the living room, he saw his friend's dad. He didn't look scary at all. He was watching TV, but his eyes looked like they were staring at something very far away. Something that frightened him, but that he couldn't stop looking at. He looked all alone and sad. As summer went on, the days got longer and hotter, and there was less to do. One day, the boy got an idea.
Hey, let's go on a mission.
The two boys grabbed their backpacks and set out. They went all through the town, collecting items for their mission. At the church, they got a paper box of incense that the minister used on special occasions.
We'll need this.
At the town hall, the boys found their favorite record album.
Here it is. Put it in your backpack.
In the forest, they searched for a certain kind of animal, a tiny, bright orange amphibian called a red eft.
I found two.
Put them in this jar.
The two friends had everything they needed. They walked further into the forest. They were going somewhere special. Deep in the woods, the boys came to the A-frame they had discovered in spring. In the shade next to this giant structure, the two friends had built a secret fort. Now it was time to perform a ceremony. The boy's friend dug a very deep hole, and then the two sat down and opened a cooler they had brought with them. It would serve as a time capsule.
Here are some photos of us.
And here are the two red F's.
And here's the record from the town hall.
Here are our 10 favorite drawings.
And a Roger Clemens baseball card.
And the best issue of Starlog.
And a Space Shuttle Challenger.
The boys put everything in the cooler and closed it up. They placed the cooler into the very deep hole and covered it with dirt.
We need to have a ceremony to protect it.
The boys put a pattern of stones around the hole. They walked around the hole 3 times. They took the incense and lit it, and they swung it over their buried time capsule.
Now it will be safe forever.
Everything that's nice has to go away eventually so that something else can take its place. And so summer went away, and school returned. This time, though, the two boys sat together in the back of the classroom, where they could draw and pass each other notes, far from the bullies. Late in the afternoon, on the first day of school, the boy's friend passed him a long strip of paper, printed with their secret code.
Meet me at the A-frame after school.
When school ended, the boy walked through the graveyard and over the stream and went to their special fort. The two friends stayed there all day. They stayed so long, in fact, that when they finished, it was getting dark. When they walked home, they couldn't figure out the right path to take.
I think the path was this way.
No, it's this way?
Where are we?
Before long, the two boys were lost in the woods. It was getting colder outside. As the boys walked, it seemed like there were more and more trees pressing in around them. They were trying to find their way home, but instead, they just seemed to get more lost. Walking through a ravine, the boy's friend slipped on a damp log and fell into a ditch.
Are you okay?
Ankle, I think it's twisted.
The boy put his arm around his friend and lifted him up.
Here, I'll help you.
They kept walking until they came to a strange place. It was full of old cars and trucks that were rusted and broken. His friend sat down on a log to rest.
Stay here. I'll look around.
The boy walked through the old abandoned cars, and then, turning a corner, he saw something incredible and terrifying. He couldn't believe his eyes. It was the strange being from their drawings, and it was looking straight at him. The boy looked at the being, the same being he had drawn with his friend. The being looked back at the boy. The boy's friend was looking in the other direction. He didn't see the being. Only the boy knew he was there. And then the boy went to his friend and pulled him to his feet, and the two of them ran as fast as they could go. They ran until they couldn't breathe, until their hearts were pounding in their chests. When the boy finally turned around, the being was gone. But now they were deeper than ever in the forest, and it was completely dark. There was nothing to do but try to sleep, huddled together for warmth. In the morning, the two boys were awakened by a startling sight. Two men with guns were standing over them. They were hunters.
How did you two boys get out here in the woods?
The boy told the hunters his name and what his phone number was, and they led them out of the woods and called his father, who came to pick them up and wrapped a blanket around them.
What happened to you two? What were you doing out there?
The boy didn't know what to tell his father. He couldn't tell him that he'd seen the being he had drawn with his friend, and he felt like he couldn't tell his friend about it either. He didn't think anyone would believe him, and he wasn't sure he believed it himself. Time passed, and the boy began to wonder if what had happened in the woods was something that he had imagined. Everything seemed normal in his little town, just like before. Every morning, just like before, the boy woke up, fed his dog, and went to school. But then one afternoon, the boy came home and accidentally left his front door open, and his dog escaped, running out into the yard. The boy went outside to chase her, but the dog ran away from him, into the woods on the edge of their yard.
Oh no! Come here, girl! Stop that!
When the boy got to the edge of the woods, he saw that his dog was far away by an old crumbling treehouse. Standing above the dog, the boy saw the being from his drawing again.
What? How in the...
The boy ran towards them, even though he was scared. But the being and the boy's dog walked into the woods together, and no matter how fast he ran, they seemed to get further and further away. Finally, they disappeared into the trees. The boy looked for the dog all day, but he couldn't find her. Finally, he gave up and walked back to his house. When he walked in the front door, he noticed something odd. The corner where the dog's leash and food bowl had been was suddenly empty.
I don't understand.
At dinner, the boy was sure his parents would be furious with him, but they didn't seem to notice the dog was gone.
Why doesn't anybody care?
Instead, his family just acted normally. His father talked about cleaning out the garage, and his mother talked about her day at work.
Everyone's acting like nothing happened.
One day, the boy was standing on the playground when he heard someone come up from behind him. It was the bully who was always picking on him. The bully shoved him to the ground.
I'm gonna kick your butt now, you dork.
The boy got up, and the bully chased him into the woods, but he tripped, giving the boy time to hide behind a fallen tree. The boy heard the bully looking for him, getting closer.
Where'd you go, you little creep? You can't hide forever.
But then suddenly, the footsteps stopped. Working up his courage, the boy looked up from his hiding place. He saw the bully walking away from him. He was following the being from the boy's drawing, who was leading him away deep into the woods. The next day, the bully was gone from school. Christmas vacation was coming soon. School had ended for the day, and the boy and his friend had been sitting in his friend's basement too long.
I know your dad is upstairs, but let's sneak out.
Okay, we can try.
The friends packed their backpacks and put on their snowsuits.
We'll have to move quickly.
And quietly.
They snuck into the hall. From upstairs, they could hear the friend's dad watching TV. They crept up every step, trying to make as little sound as possible. And then,
Go!
the boys ran through the living room and outside. They had made it. What the boys didn't notice was that in the living room, the being from their drawing was sitting with the dad. It was getting darker and darker in the room. When the boy's friend came to school the next day, he looked different somehow. The boy couldn't put his finger on what had changed. Was it that his clothes were nicer? The boy didn't pay any attention during social studies class. Instead, he made a drawing he really liked. Quietly, so that the teacher wouldn't notice, he nudged his friend to show him the drawing.
Hey, check it out.
Not now. I'm trying to pay attention to the teacher. You should too.
At lunchtime, the boy had expected to eat with his friend, but instead, he saw a group of other kids in the class come up and introduce themselves.
Hey man, come here. You look like a cool dude. Hey, you should come hang out with us after school. Yeah, man.
Instead of spending time with the boy's friend spent all day with his new friends. All the cool kids who used to hang out with the bully. He didn't talk to the boy once. When class was over, his friend didn't even say goodbye to him. He just started walking home with one of his new friends.
What's going on? I need to get to the bottom of this.
The boy followed his friend home in secret. When he got to his friend's house, he was surprised by something.
It looks different, nicer somehow.
Quietly, the boy crept inside. In the living room, the boy noticed 3 things that hadn't been there before. One of the things looked like a vase, but it had a funny lid on it. Another of the things was a box shaped like a triangle. The box had a window in it, and inside, the boy could see white stars against blue fabric.
It looks like a flag.
In front of the triangle box and the strange vase, the boy saw a picture of his friend's dad. He looked younger, and he was smiling and had a uniform on.
I don't understand. Everything seems different.
The boy made up his mind to give his friend one last chance to come back. Using a strip of paper and his special pen, he made him a secret code.
Meet me at the A-frame tomorrow after school.
That night, he tucked the message in their favorite book and left it on his friend's doorstep. The boy did a special knock, and then he left. The next day, the boy walked to the A-frame to meet his friend. He walked through the graveyard. He walked over the frozen stream. He went right at the forked path in the woods. When he got to their fort, he sat down outside and waited for his friend to arrive. The boy waited. He waited and waited. It grew dark outside. He waited some more.
He'll show up.
But he didn't. The boy sat there for hours. Snow fell on him. His friend never came. Finally, the boy stood up to leave. He hated the fort now. He hated everything. He tore the fort apart until it was just a heap of sticks, blankets, and snow. The boy went to his friend's house, but when he got there was something strange.
It's empty.
There was no one in his friend's house. There was no one in the kitchen. There was no one in the living room. The boy walked down the stairs to his friend's bedroom in the basement. It was empty, as if no one had ever lived there. At home that night, the boy sat on his bed alone. The boy's father came in with some folded laundry and noticed that the boy was crying. He sat on the bed and hugged him.
What's the matter, buddy?
Dad, where did he go?
Spring came to the town again. It had been a year now since the boy had met his friend, except no one seemed to remember that his friend had been there. A new family had moved into his friend's house. Life went on like nothing happened. At school, the other children were mean to the boy, but something had changed. The boy didn't care anymore. He didn't care what the other children thought about him. He had given up hoping that they would like him. And, most of all, he didn't care because he had an idea. After school, the boy put his idea into action. He got a shovel from his father's garage and set out. He was walking to the A-frame. He passed by the graveyard. He hopped over the stream. Outside the A-frame, he found a certain spot on the ground, and he started to dig. After digging for a while, the boy found what he was looking for. He pulled the time capsule out of the ground. It was covered with dirt now, but when he opened it, he made a discovery.
Everything is still there.
His drawings were still there, and the baseball card, and the magazine, and the model. The special record was still there. In his mason jar, the boy looked for the red efts. Instead of 2 efts, there was only one animal in the jar. It was a brilliant green salamander floating in fresh water. But most importantly, the photos were still there. Pictures of him and his friend, his best friend.
I kept them safe.
And then the boy felt someone watching him. He looked up. He thought he heard a sound coming from inside the A-frame.
Should I run? Or should I check it out?
And then the boy realized something.
I'm not afraid now.
The boy stood up and tucked the photos into the pocket of his jeans. He walked into the old A-frame and up the stairs to the second floor. And there, the boy saw the being. He was gigantic, and he had blue skin. He had large claws and fangs. He had yellow eyes. He smelled like a campfire in the morning when all the flames have gone out. But the being wasn't scary. He was sitting by himself on a little bench. With his yellow eyes, the being looked up at the boy. He seemed sad. The boy walked across the room and sat down next to the being and reached out and held the being's hand.
It's okay.